What would you do if the person standing in front of you, looking like nothing but a nobody, turned out to be the very one who saved a life you couldn't live without? Today, a shy, modest girl steps into a luxurious clinic and faces ridicule, humiliation, and scorn, until the shocking truth about who she really is comes crashing down like a tidal wave. Stay tuned, because what happens next will change everything. Lily's hands tremble as she clutches her worn-out purse, her feet heavy against the glossy, marble floors of the lavish gynecology clinic. Around her, women draped in designer dresses, sparkling jewelry, and airbrushed makeup lounge in velvet chairs, flipping through fashion magazines with manicured fingers. Lily's simple cotton dress clings to her like a spotlight, her sneakers scuffing against the polished floor. The receptionist's eyes sweep over her, pausing at her outdated bag and unstyled hair, then resume tapping away at the keyboard without a word. The whispers start instantly. "Did you see her shoes?" One woman snickers, nudging her friend. "Must have wandered in here by mistake." Another chimes in, not even bothering to lower her voice. Lily's cheeks flame, her gaze fixed on the floor as she approaches the desk. "Excuse me? I have an appointment with Dr. Blake Monroe," she says, voice small, almost lost beneath the soft, classical music playing overhead. The receptionist's eyes narrow, sliding up and down Lily's frame as if scanning a counterfeit bill. "Are you sure?" she asks, her voice coated in sugar but laced with venom. "This is a private clinic. Honey, are you sure you're in the right place?" Laughter ripples through the room, and Lily's heart races, her palms slick with sweat. "Yes, I have a—" "Maybe you meant the free clinic down the street," the receptionist interrupts, her glossy smile widening, eyes darting toward the women nearby, who are all watching, smirking, enjoying the show. "No, I have an appointment," Lily insists, her voice cracking as she slides the crumpled appointment card across the desk. The receptionist's perfectly plucked brows rise. "Oh," she says, the word hanging heavy between them. "Take a seat." Lily forces her legs to move, every step a weight, every eye in the room burning holes through her back. She sinks into a chair in the farthest corner, her head bowed as the whispers continue. Who does she think she is? Probably here to score some freebies. Must be someone's charity case. Lily presses her trembling hands together, fighting back tears as the classical music swells, as the walls close in, as the humiliation sinks deeper, rooting itself like a thorn in her chest. The air in the waiting room thickens as Lily sits frozen, her eyes fixed on the floor, cheeks burning as the whispers intensify, each word like a slap to her face. Look at her, sitting there like she belongs. A blonde woman sneers, crossing her legs, diamond-studded heels glinting under the chandelier. "I bet she's just here to snap a selfie and pretend she's one of us." Another woman laughs, flipping her hair over her shoulder, her voice sharp, each word aimed at Lily like a dagger. Lily swallows hard, her throat tight, fingers twisting in her lap, nails digging into her palms to keep from crying. Her eyes dart to the clock. 20 minutes have passed since her appointment time, yet the receptionist hasn't called her name, hasn't even glanced her way. Meanwhile, the other women are ushered in one by one, their heels clicking confidently across the marble floor as they saunter through the doors marked VIP clients only, their laughter echoing like a cruel taunt. Lily shifts in her seat, back stiff, trying to make herself smaller, invisible. But the room seems to grow colder, the whispers louder. "She's probably hoping to get a rich husband," the blonde says, her eyes cutting toward Lily, a cruel smile playing at the corner of her red-painted lips. "I mean, look at that dress. Salvation Army Special." The women burst into laughter, a sound that slices through Lily like a blade. Tears prick at the corners of her eyes, but she blinks them back, jaw clenched tight, hands fisting in her lap. Suddenly, a nurse steps into the waiting room, clipboard in hand, eyes sweeping over the crowd. "Lily Thompson," she calls, voice flat, indifferent. Lily's head jerks up, and she stands quickly, too quickly. Her purse slips from her lap, spilling its contents across the floor. Lip balm, loose change, and a crumpled handwritten grocery list scatter at the blonde woman's feet. The room falls silent. The blonde woman's eyes narrow, her lip curling as she nudges a coin with her heel. letting it roll away. "Oops," she says, voice dripping with mock sweetness. "Careful, sweetheart. Don't want to lose your life savings." The room erupts in laughter, the sound ringing in Lily's ears, drowning out the nurse's impatient sigh as she taps her pen against the clipboard. "Are you coming or not?" the nurse snaps, eyes cold, not even bending to help as Lily scrambles to collect her things. Fingers shaking, cheeks burning, each humiliating second stretching out like an eternity. Lily's hands shake as she follows the nurse down the pristine corridor, the laughter from the waiting room still echoing in her ears like a cruel, relentless soundtrack. The nurse walks ahead without a word, heels clicking sharply against the tile, eyes fixed straight ahead as if Lily is a shadow, a ghost, not even there. They reach the examination room, cold, sterile, walls gleaming under the fluorescent lights. "Change into this," the nurse says flatly, tossing a flimsy paper gown onto the examination table, the fabric crinkling as it lands, as if even it refuses to touch her. Lily nods, teeth clamped down on her lower lip to keep it from trembling, waiting for the nurse to leave. But the nurse doesn't move, arms crossed, eyes scanning Lily from head to toe, a smirk tugging at the corner of her mouth. "Are you sure you're supposed to be here?" the nurse says, voice dripping with contempt, gaze flicking to Lily's scuffed sneakers, her cheap cotton dress, the tear stains streaking her cheeks. "Doctor, Monroe usually only sees important clients, not charity cases." The words hit Lily like a slap, her face burning as the nurse turned and sauntered away, the door slamming behind her with a deafening thud. Lily stands there alone, the walls pressing in, the air thick and heavy as she strips out of her dress, the thin paper gown rustling as she slips it over her shoulders. It barely covers her. Cheap, scratchy, exposing too much of her skin, her vulnerability, her shame. Minutes tick by. Then a half an hour. An hour. The room grows colder, the silence deafening. Outside, she can hear voices, nurses, other patients, all laughing, chatting, oblivious to the girl shivering alone behind the door. And then, clear as a bell, a voice rings out just beyond the door. "Did you see the girl in room 3? It's the blonde woman from the waiting room, her voice dripping with fake concern. "I mean, how did she even get in here? Must be one of those wannabe gold diggers hoping to snag Dr. Monroe." Another woman laughs, the sound shrill and piercing. "Yeah, right." As if he'd even looked twice at her. She couldn't afford his consultation if she sold everything she owned. Laughter explodes, the sound ricocheting through the walls, through Lily's skull, through her chest like a hammer. Tears sting her eyes, her fists clenching the edges of the paper gown, the flimsy fabric crumpling beneath her grip as she bites down hard on her lip to keep from sobbing. And then, just as the laughter dies down, the door swings open with a sudden, jarring force. Lily jerks her head up, eyes wide, heart pounding. And there he is, standing in the doorway, clipboard in hand, eyes intense and dark and stormy as they lock onto hers. Dr. Blake Monroe, the handsome, young, wildly successful gynecologist everyone in the city talks about. And in that split second, as his gaze meets hers, something flashes in his eyes. Recognition, shock, a flicker of something raw and haunting. But then, just as quickly, it's gone, and all that's left is the silence, the tension hanging heavy in the air, the unbearable weight of humiliation still pressing down on Lily like a suffocating, inescapable cloud. Dr. Blake Monroe stands frozen in the doorway, his eyes locked onto Lily's as if he's just seen a ghost. For a moment, neither of them speaks, the room a charged, suffocating silence. Lily's chest tightens, her heart thundering in her ears, her fists still clenching the edges of the flimsy paper gown. Blake steps inside, the door clicking shut behind him, his jaw tight, his expression unreadable as he flips through the clipboard, eyes scanning the notes as if searching for something that shouldn't be there. "Lily Thompson," he says, his voice low, rough, almost strangled, and when he finally looks up, his eyes are stormy, intense, piercing right through her. Lily nods, her throat too tight to speak, her gaze darting to the floor, Anywhere but those eyes that seem to see too much. Blake clears his throat, his hand tightening around the clipboard. "I need to ask you a few questions before we begin," he says. And his voice is different now, softer, gentler, as if each word is carefully chosen, as if he's trying not to startle her. "Have we met before?" Lily's brow furrows, confusion flickering across her face as she shakes her head, her heart pounding harder. "I don't think so," she whispers, her voice a thin, fragile thread. Blake's jaw clenches, a muscle ticking beneath his stubble as he nods, his gaze dropping back to the clipboard, fingers drumming against the hard surface as if he's trying to rein in something wild, something raw. "All right," he says, forcing a tight, strained smile. "Let's begin." He moves closer, his scent a mix of sandalwood and something clean, crisp, intoxicating. And Lily's skin prickles with awareness, her pulse skittering beneath the thin fabric of the gown. Blake reaches for the stethoscope, his hands steady but his jaw tense, his eyes dark as they flicker over her exposed shoulders. And for a moment, the air between them is electric, heavy, charged with something unspoken, something potent, but just as quickly, the moment shatters. The door bursts open without warning, and the nurse from earlier storms in, eyes wild, face flushed, a phone clutched in her hand. "Dr. Monroe, you have to see this," she says, her voice breathless, urgent, shoving the phone into his hand. Blake's brow furrows as he glances down, the screen glaring bright against his palm. A video, shaky, poorly lit, but unmistakable. The footage is grainy, chaotic, cars swerving, horns blaring, people screaming. And then, there she is, Lily. Younger, thinner, hair flying wildly as she runs into the middle of the street, her arms outstretched, her face a mask of sheer, unyielding determination as she throws herself in front of a speeding car. The car skids, swerves, tires screeching. And then a girl's scream pierces the night, high and sharp and gut-wrenching, and Lily is cradling a young girl in her arms, blood soaking through her dress, her face streaked with tears as she rocks the girl back and forth, whispering words that can't be heard over the chaos. The video ends, the screen going black, and the room plunges into silence, a silence so thick it presses against Lily's chest like a vice, squeezing the air from her lungs. Blake's hand trembles as he lowers the phone, his eyes wide, dark, blazing as they lock onto hers. And for a moment, it's as if the world has stopped spinning, as if time itself has frozen between them. "That girl," Blake says, his voice hoarse, raw, each word laced with barely contained emotion. "That girl you saved, she was my sister." Lily's breath catches in her throat, her eyes widening, her heart slamming against her ribcage as the truth crashes over her like a tidal wave. A truth so shocking, so impossible. It leaves her reeling, gasping, drowning in the unbearable weight of what she's just heard. Lily's mind spins, her knees weak, the room swaying as Blake's words hang heavy in the air, each syllable pulsing like a heartbeat in her ears. "Your sister," she whispers, her voice trembling, disbelieving, and Blake's jaw clenches, his eyes blazing as he nods, his gaze never leaving hers. "Mia," he says, the name a broken whisper, his fist tightening around the clipboard as if it's the only thing keeping him grounded. "You saved her life that night. I was out of the country, unreachable, and when I came back, she was still in the hospital, alive, because of you." Lily's breath catches, her chest heaving, her fingers shaking as she grips the edge of the examination table, the flimsy paper gown crinkling beneath her grasp. Memories flash through her mind, the blinding headlights, the screeching tires, the deafening crash, the little girl's blood-soaked dress, the frantic whispers of stay with me," echoing in the cold, dark night. "I didn't know," she chokes out, her voice cracking, tears pricking her eyes as she looks up at Blake, her gaze locking onto his, her heart hammering against her ribs. "I didn't know she was your sister." Blake swallows hard, his throat working as he steps closer, his presence overwhelming, his scent wrapping around her like a warm, suffocating blanket. "You saved her," he says, his voice tight, raw, his eyes dark and stormy as they search hers. And for a moment, Lily forgets to breathe, forgets everything except the way he's looking at her, as if she's the only thing in the world that matters. But then, just as quickly, the moment shatters. The nurse bursts through the door again, eyes wild, cheeks flushed, a tablet clutched in her hands. "Dr. Monroe," she pants, shoving the screen in his face. "You need to see this." Blake's brow furrows, his jaw tightening as he takes the tablet, his eyes scanning the screen, his expression hardening with each passing second. On the screen, a news report flashes, the words scrolling across the bottom in bold, glaring letters. Millionaire gynecologist Dr. Blake Monroe, sued for negligence, new allegations, surface. Lily's heart stops, her stomach plummeting as she stares at the screen, the words blurring together, her pulse roaring in her ears as Blake's jaw clenches, his knuckles white as he grips the tablet. "It's a lie," he mutters, his voice tight, dark, his eyes flashing with barely contained fury. "It's all lies. Someone's trying to ruin me." The nurse shifts uncomfortably, her gaze darting to Lily, then back to Blake, her hands wringing nervously in front of her. "They're saying you bribed witnesses, that you paid off victims to keep quiet, that you're a fraud, a predator." Blake's face goes pale, his eyes flashing with rage, his jaw ticking as he throws the tablet onto the counter with a resounding crash. "I didn't do any of it," he says, his voice dangerously calm, his eyes dark, intense, burning into Lily's. "You have to believe me." But Lily can't speak, can't move, can't breathe, her heart slamming against her chest, her mind spinning as the room seems to tilt, the walls closing in, the air growing thicker, heavier, suffocating, because suddenly it all makes sense. The way Blake has been acting, the way he looked at her when he walked in, the way he knew who she was before she even said a word. He wasn't just her doctor. He was the man everyone was talking about. The man being accused of terrible things, the man being dragged through the mud by the media, the man whose reputation was crumbling right before her eyes. And now, as he stands there, eyes blazing, fists clenched, jaw set, Lily can't shake the feeling that she's just walked straight into the middle of a storm that's only just begun. Blake's fists slam onto the counter, the impact reverberating through the room like a gunshot. The nurse flinches, eyes wide, lips parted, and Lily jerks back, her breath catching as Blake spins around, his chest heaving, jaw clenched so tight it looks like it might shatter. "Who released that report?" he demands. Voice like thunder, eyes flashing with a dark, dangerous fury. The nurse stammers, her gaze darting to Lily, then back to Blake, her face flushed, sweat beading at her temples. We don't know yet," she whispers, voice trembling, hands twisting in the fabric of her scrubs. But the press is swarming outside. They're demanding a statement. Blake curses under his breath, his knuckles white as they grip the counter, veins bulging beneath the skin. "This is a setup," he snarls, his eyes blazing as he whirls around, his gaze locking onto Lily's. And for a moment, the room falls deathly silent, the air thick and heavy, pulsing with tension. "You believe me, don't you?" he asks, voice low, raw, desperate, as if her answer is the only thing holding him together. But Lily can't speak, can't move, her mind spinning, her chest tight, her heart a wild, frantic drumbeat in her ears. She begins, her throat dry, her pulse roaring, but before she can finish, the door bursts open again, and the head nurse storms in, eyes blazing, a clipboard clutched so tightly in her hands the veins stand out like cords. "Dr. Monroe," she barks, her voice sharp, cold, hard as steel. There's been a development. Blake's jaw clenches, his nostrils flaring as he turns to face her, his shoulders rigid, muscles coiled like a spring ready to snap. "What now?" The head nurse steps forward, eyes dark, unblinking, her jaw set as she shoves the clipboard into his chest. "Someone leaked your patient files," she says, her voice a razor blade wrapped in velvet, slicing through the air with deadly precision, including hers. The air rushes out of Lily's lungs in a strangled gasp. her vision blurring as Blake's eyes go wide, his face draining of color. No. He breathes, his voice cracking, his hand trembling as he flips through the pages, eyes scanning the confidential records, the names, the dates, the diagnoses, all laid bare for the world to see. How could this happen, he demands, his voice rising, raw, frantic, panic clawing at the edges of his control. Who did this? The head nurse crosses her arms over her chest, her lips pressed into a thin, grim line. The same person who released the news report, she says, her eyes cold, hard, unyielding, and they're saying you bribed Lily to keep quiet about a botched procedure. Lily's knees buckle, the room spinning, the walls closing in, her pulse a deafening roar in her ears. What she chokes out, her voice a broken, breathless whisper, her eyes wide, wild, searching Blake's face for answers, for reassurance, for anything that makes sense. But Blake just stands there, frozen, his jaw clenched, his fists shaking, his eyes dark, hollow, stormy as a hurricane. This is a lie, he says, his voice a low, lethal growl, his gaze locked onto Lily's, burning with desperation, with rage, with something deeper, darker, more terrifying. You know me, Lily. You know I would never, Dr. Monroe, another nurse shouts, bursting into the room, face flushed, eyes wide, fear etched into every line. The media is outside. They're demanding to speak with Lily. They want to know if she's the girl in the video. The words hit Lily like a punch to the gut, stealing the air from her lungs, sending her reeling, stumbling back against the cold, sterile wall. No. She breathes, her voice barely a whisper, her eyes filling with tears as she stares at Blake, her heart breaking, shattering, collapsing beneath the unbearable weight of everything crashing down around them. And in that moment, as the world outside explodes in chaos, as the whispers and accusations and lies swirl like a raging storm, as Blake stands there with his fists clenched and his jaw set and his eyes blazing with fury and desperation, and something dangerously close to despair, Lily realizes she's been dragged into a nightmare she can't escape, a nightmare that threatens to destroy everything she thought she knew, including the man standing right in front of her. The chaos outside the clinic surges like a tidal wave. Reporters screaming Lily's name, cameras flashing, microphones thrust forward, their voices a deafening roar as they chant, "Lily, Lily, did, Doctor Monroe bribe you? Are you his secret lover? Is it true he paid you to stay silent?" Lily's knees tremble, her heart racing, sweat slicking her palms as she presses herself against the cold, sterile wall, her mind spinning, her vision blurring. The room closes in, suffocating. Each shout outside, a hammer blow against her skull. Suddenly, the door bursts open, and the head nurse strides in, her eyes fierce, jaw set, a steely determination radiating from every inch of her frame. "Lily," she says, her voice sharp, cutting through the noise, and Lily's head jerks up, her eyes wide, wild, desperate. "You need to come with me." What Lily stammers, her pulse a frantic drumbeat, her hands shaking as the head nurse grips her arm, pulls her forward, her grip firm but not unkind. "Where are we going?" "To the press," the head nurse says, her gaze dark, her jaw clenched, her expression grim. It's time they heard the truth. The corridor is a blur of blinding lights and echoing shouts, the press crowding closer, the questions louder, sharper, knives slicing through the air, but the head nurse keeps walking, shoulders squared, chin high, pushing through the mob until they reach the center of the chaos. A makeshift podium, cameras and microphones aimed like weapons. Blake stands behind it, his eyes dark, hollow, haunted, his jaw clenched, fists white-knuckled at his sides. The press shouts his name, demanding answers, accusations flying like bullets. "Dr. Monroe, is it true you bribed Lily Thompson to stay silent? Is she your mistress? Did you threaten her to keep quiet?" Blake's jaw flexes, his eyes flashing, but before he can speak, the head nurse steps forward, raising a hand, her voice ringing out over the crowd. Enough, she shouts, and for a moment, the chaos stills, the world holding its breath. "You want the truth," the head nurse says, her voice hard, unyielding, her gaze sweeping the crowd. "Here it is. Lily Thompson didn't take a bribe. She didn't receive money. She isn't Dr. Monroe's mistress. In fact, she's the girl who saved Dr. Monroe's sister's life years ago." Gasps ripple through the crowd, cameras clicking, reporters scribbling furiously, eyes wide with shock. "She risked her life to save a child she didn't even know." The head nurse continues, her voice rising, each word a hammer blow. "She's a hero. And Dr. Monroe. He's the only reason this clinic still stands. He's saved countless lives, given free care to patients who couldn't afford it, and poured his own money into treatments and surgeries that insurance wouldn't cover. And now you want to tear him down over lies and baseless accusations," the crowd murmurs, whispers spreading like wildfire. And Lily's chest tightens, her eyes filling with tears as the head nurse turns, her gaze locking onto her expression softening. "Lily," she says, her voice gentler now, a slight tremor beneath the steel. "You deserve to be heard. Tell them what really happened." Lily's heart pounds, her knees shaking, her throat tight as she steps forward, eyes darting to Blake. His jaw clenched, eyes dark, intense, filled with something raw, unspoken, before she turns to the sea of cameras, the blinding lights, the waiting faces. The world holds its breath, and Lily takes a deep, shuddering breath, her fists clenching, her heart hammering, and finally, she finds her voice. Lily swallows hard, the microphone trembling in her hand, the blinding lights burning into her skin as hundreds of eyes bore into her, waiting, watching, judging. Her pulse races, her breath shallow, the air thick and suffocating, but she forces herself to stand tall, to lift her chin, to meet their gaze. "I know what you all think of me," she begins, her voice quivering but growing stronger with each word, her eyes blazing as she sweeps the crowd, the cameras, the faces frozen in anticipation. "You see a girl in a cheap dress, worn-out shoes, someone who doesn't belong here, someone you think is nothing." The whispers ripple through the crowd, flashes popping, pens scribbling, reporters leaning forward, hanging on to every syllable. "You think I'm here to leech off Dr. Monroe, to take advantage of his kindness, to ruin his career with lies?" Lily continues, her jaw clenched, her fists tightening at her sides. "But let me tell you something. When I saved that little girl in the street, I didn't do it for money. I didn't do it for fame. I did it because it was the right thing to do. Because I couldn't stand by and watch a child die when I could do something to help." Her chest heaves, her heart slamming against her ribs, the memory of Mia's tiny, blood-soaked body in her arms flashing through her mind like a knife to the gut. "And Dr. Monroe," she says, her voice rising, slicing through the silence, eyes locking onto the cameras, defiant, unyielding. "He didn't pay me to keep quiet. He didn't bribe me to lie. He didn't do any of the things you're accusing him of. The only thing he's guilty of is being a good man. A man who spent his life helping people, giving his time, his money, his heart to patients who couldn't afford the care they needed." The crowd murmurs, eyes darting to Blake, standing behind her, his jaw clenched, eyes dark and stormy, fists trembling at his sides. "You all judged me the second I walked into that clinic," Lily says, her voice cracking, tears stinging her eyes as she looks at the reporters, the women from the waiting room, the nurses who mocked her, who sneered, who laughed. "You looked at my clothes, my shoes, my hair, and you decided I was trash. You decided I was worthless, that I didn't belong." Her gaze locks onto the nurse who taunted her. The woman's face flushed, eyes downcast, jaw tight. "But I do belong," Lily says, voice fierce, eyes blazing, her heart pounding like a war drum. "Not because of money or looks or fancy clothes. I belong because I'm a human being. And every human being deserves respect, deserves kindness, deserves to be seen, to be heard, to be valued." The room falls silent, the tension thick and electric, and Lily takes a deep, shuddering breath, her shoulders squared, her chin high, her eyes burning as she delivers the final blow. "So, the next time you look at someone like me, someone who doesn't fit your definition of worthy, Remember this. A girl in a cheap dress can save a life, can change a life, can stand up here in front of all of you and speak the truth, no matter how hard you try to silence her. The air crackles, the silence deafening, the world holding its breath as Lily drops the microphone, steps back, and turns to face Blake. His eyes wide, dark, filled with something raw, something that tears through her, strips her bare. And as the cameras flash, as the reporters clamor, as the whispers rise, Lily stands tall, unbroken, unafraid, her heart hammering, her pulse roaring, her soul blazing with a fire that refuses to be extinguished. The world feels like it's spinning, the air crackling with tension, the crowd pressing in closer, the flashes blinding, questions firing like bullets from every direction. But all Lily can see is Blake, standing there, his jaw tight, his eyes locked onto hers as if she's the only person in the room, the only person in the world, Lily. He breathes, his voice rough, raw, his chest rising and falling with each ragged breath. And before she can blink, before she can even think, he's moving toward her, cutting through the chaos, the noise, the storm. The cameras shift, lenses zooming in, capturing every step, every breath, every heartbeat as Blake stops in front of her, his eyes dark, stormy, burning with something fierce, something desperate, something that makes Lily's pulse race, her skin tingle, her knees wobble beneath her. "You didn't have to do that," Blake says, his voice a rasp, his fingers twitching at his sides as if he's holding himself back, barely hanging on. "You didn't have to defend me." "Yes, I did," Lily says, her chin lifting, her eyes blazing, her heart slamming against her ribs as she steps closer, close enough to feel his breath against her skin, close enough to see the tension coiled in every inch of his body. "Because you defended me when no one else would. Because you believed in me when everyone else wrote me off. Because you're a good man, Blake, no matter what they say, no matter what they try to do to you." Blake's jaw clenches, his throat working as he swallows, his eyes dark and intense, searching hers. And for a moment, the world falls away. The cameras, the reporters, the flashing lights, all of it fades into nothing. And it's just them, standing there in the middle of the storm, two souls clinging to each other like lifelines. "Lily," he whispers, his voice a rasp, a plea, a confession. And before she can speak, before she can even take another breath, he reaches out, his hand cupping her cheek, his thumb brushing away a tear she didn't even realize was falling. "You saved me," he says, his voice breaking, his eyes shining, and the words hit her like a tidal wave, crashing over her, drowning her, filling her with something warm and bright and terrifyingly beautiful. "You saved me too," Lily whispers, her voice trembling, her heart aching, her soul aching, and then his lips are on hers, soft and warm and urgent, his arms wrapping around her, pulling her closer, holding her tight as if he's afraid she'll slip away, as if he's afraid he'll wake up and she'll be gone. The crowd erupts in gasps, in whispers, in the rapid-fire click of camera shutters. But Lily doesn't hear them, doesn't see them, doesn't care. All she cares about is Blake. The way he kisses her, as if he's been waiting his whole life for this moment. The way he holds her, as if she's the only thing keeping him anchored to this world. The way he breathes her name like a prayer, like a promise, like a vow. When they finally break apart, both of them breathless, both of them trembling, Blake presses his forehead against hers, his eyes closing, his hands tangled in her hair. "Stay with me," he whispers, his voice a shiver against her lips. And Lily's heart swells, her throat tight, her fingers clutching his shirt as if she'll never let go. "Always," she says, her voice soft, fierce, unyielding, and as the cameras flash, as the reporters shout, as the world watches, Lily and Blake stand together, wrapped in each other's arms, two hearts beating as one, two souls entwined, two broken, battered, beautiful people who found each other in the chaos, who saved each other from the darkness, who proved that love, real, raw, reckless love, is the greatest victory of all. The world watches as Lily and Blake stand together beneath the glaring lights, the roar of the crowd fading into a distant hum, the cameras capturing every breath, every lingering glance, every unspoken word. But all Lily can hear is the steady, reassuring beat of Blake's heart beneath her cheek, his arms wrapped around her like a shield, a fortress, a promise. "Lily," Blake whispers, his fingers brushing a strand of hair from her face, his eyes dark and tender, his voice a shiver against her skin. "Are you ready?" Lily nods, her chest tight, her pulse a wild, frantic drumbeat. And then she turns to face the crowd, the cameras, the reporters, her hand clasped tightly in Blake's, her shoulders squared, her chin lifted, her gaze fierce, unbroken. "You all judge me," she begins, her voice clear, unwavering, echoing through the silence like a battle cry. "You looked at me and decided I was nothing. You laughed at my clothes, at my shoes, at my face. You mocked me, humiliated me, tried to break me. All because I didn't look like you, didn't dress like you, didn't fit your definition of what it means to matter." The crowd shifts, eyes dropping, heads bowing, guilt and shame rippling through them like a wave as Lily's gaze sweeps over them, her eyes blazing, her chest heaving. But you know what she says, her voice rising, each word a hammer blow, each syllable a sharp, searing blade. "You were wrong because worth isn't defined by clothes or money or status. Worth is defined by what's inside, by the heart, by the soul, by the way you treat people, even when you think no one's watching." Blake squeezes her hand, his thumb stroking over her knuckles, his eyes shining with pride, with love, with something raw and beautiful and boundless. "Lily Thompson is the bravest person I know," he says, his voice thick, choked with emotion. And the crowd gasps, cameras flashing, reporters scribbling, the air thick and electric. "She risked her life to save my sister, a little girl she didn't even know, and she did it without expecting anything in return. That's what true worth looks like. That's what real beauty looks like." Lily swallows, her throat tight, tears stinging her eyes as she looks up at Blake, his face inches from hers, his breath warm against her skin. "You taught me what love looks like," she whispers, her voice breaking, her heart shattering open, her soul laid bare for the world to see. "You showed me that I was worth saving, and now it's my turn to save you." Blake's jaw clenches, his eyes glistening, his hands trembling as he cups her face, his thumb brushing away a tear that slips down her cheek. "You already did," he says, his voice a rasp, a prayer, a vow, and then he kisses her, soft and sweet and soul deep, a kiss that speaks of redemption, of forgiveness, of forever. The crowd erupts in cheers, the cameras flashing, the world watching as Lily and Blake hold each other close, two hearts beating as one, two souls wrapped in each other, unbreakable, unyielding, unafraid. And as the sun sets behind them, as the world watches in stunned, breathless silence, a single line flashes across every screen, every headline, every news report. Don't judge a person by their clothes or their bank account. Judge them by their heart, because in the end, it's love, not money. That will save us all. She was the girl they laughed at, the girl they broke, the girl they left bleeding in the middle of the road, but they never imagined she'd come back, not as a victim, but as a force they could never silence. Now, as the world watches and the truth rips through their perfect, polished lives, they'll learn one haunting lesson. The girl they destroyed was the only one who could save them. And, in the end, it's not what you see that will haunt you. It's what you missed when you were too busy looking down.